Okay, hi everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. I think we'll go ahead and get started. Give everyone a couple more minutes to come on, but we'll go ahead and get started with our presentation. So thank you for joining us. So this webinar is about covering the AGU Fall Meeting, whether it's your first time or you're just looking for some extra tips and tricks for navigating this meeting. We're here to give you all the tools you need to make the meeting a success. So who we are. So I am Lauren LaPuma and I work in the AGU Public Information Office. And I'm also here with my colleagues Nancy Bompey and Liza Lester, also from the AGU Public Information Office. And then we also have freelance writer Katherine Kornei, and I'll let her go ahead and introduce herself.
Hi everyone, my name is Katherine. I'm a freelance journalist and I focus on Earth and space science, and I've been covering AGU for several years now, and I'm excited to share some tips and tricks.
So here's a kind of an outline of what we're going to talk about today. So I'll just give you a brief overview about the fall meeting itself, then talk to you about the press operation and fall meeting and what we do for members of the media, a little bit of information about navigating the venue, and then Katherine's going to go ahead and give you her tips for covering the fall meeting. Then we'll bring it back and give you a little bit more information and talk about next steps, and then we'll open it up for questions. So AGU Fall Meeting is the largest gathering of Earth and space scientists. We regularly get more than 20,000 or so attendees. This year, we are expecting a record number of people, more than 24,000, and these are scientists coming from all areas of Earth and space science. We have nearly 2,000 sessions or scientific sessions that will be going on, and the meeting takes place over a full week, 5 full days, and this year we had more than 26,000 abstracts submitted. So it's a lot of science in a whole full week of time. It's really exciting, but it's huge. It's a little bit overwhelming. And this year is the very first year that the meeting is going to be held in Washington, D.C. So it's new for us as well as for you. So there's a couple little things that are going to be specific to D.C. that we'll talk about here. So the way the scientific program is organized is all the sessions are broken out into which scientific discipline it corresponds to. And we cover all areas of Earth and space science. So there are more than 20 scientific disciplines that all the sessions cover. So it could be anything from atmospheric science to ocean science, natural hazards, space weather, planetary science, and more. So all of those. Plus there are some sessions related to science policy and science education as well. We also have several keynote lectures, which are just general plenary lectures that are very broad and are not specific to one scientific discipline. We also have some union and town hall sessions, which are also they cut across disciplines. They're more of interest to a broader scientific audience. And one thing to mention is that about 2/3 of the presentations are poster presentations at our meeting, and about 1/3 are oral presentations, those typical scientific talks. So the way the schedule is broken out each day, so it's 5 full days, like I said. There are 2 oral sessions in the morning and 2 in the afternoon with a little break in between, and then 1 morning poster session and 1 afternoon poster session. And so the program starts every day at 8 a.m. and ends every day at 6 p.m. And those keynotes and those town hall lectures, like I was mentioning, those happen at the breaks, so at the lunch break, and then in the evening after the scientific program has ended. So it's a lot of science over these 5 days. There are also some other formats. There are new things called e-lightning sessions, and all of that is detailed on the fall meeting website. But the oral sessions and the poster sessions are the 2 main types of presentations that you guys will be covering. And just a quick note that recording, audio and video recording is not allowed in any scientific session, whether it's oral or poster. So if you happen to be a filmmaker or someone who's planning on recording in one of the sessions, please let us know ahead of time and we can help coordinate that for you. So a little bit about the press operation at fall meeting. So we typically get more than 300 members of the media attending, and they are everyone from reporters, staff writers, and freelancers to bloggers, other press officers and public information officers, authors and filmmakers, photo and video journalists, and even journalism students and educators come as well. And so what we provide to the members of the press is several things. The first is the press room. And the press room is kind of your hub it's kind of like your home base for the meeting. This is where you'll check in, you'll have space to eat, to work and mingle. We will have meals provided by AGU for all the members of the press. So we'll have a separate internet dedicated just for members of the press. We'll have computers if you need to use them and print something out. We'll also have hardline phones if you need to do an interview via phone. We will also have this year 2 separate what we call press workrooms. And these are just smaller rooms right next to the press room that are for doing quiet kind of like quiet workspace. So if you want to go and work on you're filing a story and you want to kind of work away from the hubbub of the press room, you can go into one of these quiet work rooms, because the press room can get kind of loud, especially during meal times. So if you want somewhere quiet to go and file your story, that's where you can go. We also have 2 quiet rooms for interviews. So these are smaller rooms that fit a couple of people, and therefore, interviewing scientists, whether in person or on the phone. And so all of these rooms, and I'll show you where these all are located at the meeting venue in just a second. So the hours for all these rooms are 7:30 a.m. They all open at 7:30 a.m. on Monday through Friday, and it closes at 6:30 p.m. Monday through Thursday and at 2 p.m. on Friday. And so the AGU press office, we have put together a whole series of press events at Fall Meeting to help reporters cover all of the amazing science that's being presented. So we have 3 types of events. So the majority of events that we do are press conferences. These are where a panel of speakers presents their results, and these are, intended to really break research news. So what's the newest, most interesting science that's coming out of the meeting that's, applicable, that's of interest to a broad, diverse array of journalists. We also do several workshops every year, and the workshops are similar in format to press conferences, but instead of breaking news, they're meant to give reporters some background information, whether it's about an upcoming mission or project or something else that might be in the news in the next year or so. The third type of event that we do is a media availability, and this is pretty much just a question and answer session with either prominent scientists in a particular field or people who are prominent in the sciences but not necessarily doing research, such as agency heads, politicians, things like that. So we usually have a couple of those every year as well. Excuse me. So all of our press events will take place Monday through Thursday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So there's no press events on Friday. And we will announce all the topics for our press events a week before the meeting, which is December 3rd. And all of these events are streamed live over the web, and they're recorded and uploaded to YouTube for future reference. So it's easy to cover the meeting remotely or go back and watch the press conference if you wanted to go back and get some more information out of it. We will also upload all the press conference slides to the web, which I will talk about a little bit later. We will also be putting out a few tip sheets, which are just a couple lists curated by us of potentially newsworthy presentations that are not included in our press conferences. So here's a little bit of information about the venue. So our home base is going to be the Walter E. Washington Convention Center, which is located in the Mount Vernon Square area of Washington, D.C. But we are such a big meeting that we are also going to have scientific sessions in a couple other satellite locations nearby. So we actually, as the press operation, we are all going to be housed in the Marriott Marquis Hotel, which is right next door to the convention center and also accessible via an underground access tunnel. So you don't even have to go outside to get to the hotel. And so you can see here on this map I have, it's right next door to the convention center on Massachusetts Avenue. And so here's a little floor plan of where all the press rooms will be. So we'll be on the Marriott Marquis on level M3, which is 3 levels below the lobby. And the hotel has pretty good signage showing, telling you where to go to each level. And then we'll have some signs up as well to help direct you to these rooms. But all you'll need for all your press needs are going to be here on this level. You can see in this floor plan the press conference room, the main press room, the 2 press work rooms, which have, quiet workspace, are quiet rooms for interviews. Press registration is going to be right outside in that little kind of hallway on this level as well. So you can so when you first arrive at the meeting, you can go straight to the Marriott if you like, and go straight to press registration and the press room and pick up everything you need right there. A lot of oral sessions will also be in the Marriott Marquis, but as well as the convention center. The poster hall itself is in the convention center. It's on the lower level. And the keynotes are going to be in the convention center as well on level 3 in the big ballroom up there. Okay, and with that, I'll turn it over to Kathryn.
Hi, everybody. So I'm really happy to be here and share a little bit about what I know about covering this amazing, huge conference. All right, so just a little bit about me. I am a freelance science journalist, and I mostly cover Earth and space science. And I have a background in astronomy. So if people have questions about covering this conference from a scientific perspective as well, I'm very happy to talk about that. All right. And in terms of the publications, I do a lot of writing for Science. I write for Scientific American, I write for EOS, and I write for Discover. And I've been attending the fall meeting since 2014. Perfect. So today I'm going to be talking about what to do before the meeting, since there's a lot you can be doing. Of course, at the meeting, how to cover it from a journalist perspective, and then how you can also follow up at the end. And the next slide, please. So before the meeting, there's a lot to do. So it's an enormous, enormous scientific program, about 26,000 abstracts, and all the press conferences and all the other aspects as well. So something that you can be doing now is looking through this program. And of course, there's so many different sessions. I tend to focus on the beats that I tend to cover, of course, since I know those the best. But sometimes it's also fun to break into something, for instance, if you know a scientist in another field, or maybe somebody you've worked with in the past, check out some of those sessions as well. And as you're looking through the program, you can search for keywords. And in addition to searching for scientific keywords that pertain to the beats that you cover, you can also go a little oddball and search for keywords that might hit on something newsworthy. So for instance, some keywords that I've used in the past, take a look for surprising. If a scientist is saying that his or her work is surprising, it might also be newsworthy. I've also looked for largest, smallest, just words that, might net a really unique story that perhaps nobody else is going to look for. Another hint about looking for keywords is maybe putting in the name of a scientist that you've worked with before, or maybe somebody at a local institution. So then you could follow up with that person in person when you actually get home as well. So that's another benefit. So something that I like to do before the meeting is I come up with a pretty comprehensive plan of what I think I want to do. And I don't stick with this plan 100%, but it's definitely a good guideline for me. So what I'm showing you here on this screen, this is something that I created for last year's AGU meeting. So I went through a lot of the scientific program, and I flagged sessions that I think I wanted to check out. So I, of course, included all the basics, the title, the location, the time. But I tried to be realistic in the sense that I didn't schedule myself one talk after another where I had to run across the whole convention center. So I tried to leave a little time for walking, of course. And I was also realistic in terms of how many talks I could probably go to in a day. I tend to do about 7 to 10 talks per day, and I find that that works for me. And as you'll see by looking at the spreadsheet that I made here, the one at the very bottom, I've already flagged that I had sold that story to EOS, and I had done that before the meeting. So I'll talk a little bit about doing pre-pitching as well and how that's really helpful and can make you feel very productive and try to avoid feeling frazzled at the beginning of the meeting because you already have a story idea. So something else before the meeting is I often query researchers. So if I'm looking through the scientific program and I find something that I'm pretty sure I want to cover, I'll often reach out to the scientists. And I'll say I maybe do this querying about 50% of the time. And I ask very basic questions. Maybe I'll send an email, maybe I'll ask for a quick phone conversation. But I ask the basics like, what motivated your work? Why are your results important? And very importantly, have your findings been published? Because if these findings have been published, months ago, other journalists have probably already covered them. So that's always something to ask. And the purpose of doing this kind of pre-interview is severalfold. Quite simply, it lets me know, are the researchers willing to talk to journalists? Are they interested? Do they do a good job of explaining their science? And also, are their results newsworthy? By having this quick conversation, either on the phone or email, I get a good sense of, do I want to pitch this story somewhere? And also, I can ask the researchers, do they have any neat visuals or video? So I can have all these extra media that when I do finally make a pitch to an editor, I can say, I've done this legwork. I have a little more idea beyond just reading the abstract. So that's been really helpful to me. And something else I like to do is when I find a story that's potentially newsworthy, I really try to get the researchers' cell phone numbers. Because at the fall meeting, people are running around, they're not always checking their email. So if you have a cell phone number and you want to meet up with somebody at the meeting, that's extremely helpful. So don't be shy about asking for a cell phone number. And then something else that I do is when I have these story ideas that I think are pretty newsworthy, I will even send out pitches before the meeting. So I will write up a short pitch in terms of why I think it's newsworthy. I'll certainly mention that these results will be presented at the fall meeting, and I'll start to compose some of these emails to editors that I work with regularly. So it's really helpful because when I get to the meeting, I then know that maybe I already have some story assignments. So I don't feel quite as crazy running around trying to do pitches at the meeting, since the meeting itself is already very busy. So something else to remember before the meeting, just some logistics. Make sure you have business cards, something really quick, simple, very useful for handing out. They're also very useful for leaving on posters if you want the researcher to contact you. And I'll come back to that point. Also bring a voice recorder, really useful for catching quick quotes. And finally, come dressed to be comfortable. You're going to be doing a lot of walking. Bring your comfortable shoes. And finally, something else that I do is I take a look at who else is attending the meeting as a member of the media. And I'll certainly find people maybe that I've worked with in the past, or somebody I'd love to meet, or maybe an editor that I'd like to work with. And I often reach out to people, just say hi. If it's somebody I really want to chat with, then I maybe ask if he or she wants to get coffee or lunch during the meeting. And I know maybe you feel shy and you don't want to do this, but we're all a friendly crowd. It's really nice to meet up with people there. So I do recommend that. All right, so I wanted to include a slide about covering the fall meeting remotely, since perhaps some of you won't be making it to the meeting in person. So some of these tips and tricks are the same. Of course, getting to know the scientific program, looking through that. You have the advantage that you won't necessarily, you won't be running around all the sessions since you'll be remote. So take a little more time and really dig into that program. Do the search for all the keywords, look in the beats that you normally cover, maybe look in some beats that you want to cover, and then really query the researchers in advance. You can make it clear that you're not going to be attending the meeting in person, but you still want to write about the results. And so don't feel shy about contacting researchers. Ask them to explain their results a little bit more. Ask them if they've published their results before. And an additional point is it's probably going to be difficult to reach researchers during the fall meeting. They're going to be running around, they're attending their own sessions. So as much as you can do beforehand in terms of finding out what researchers have done, coming up with your pitches, and sending out those pitches, that'll put you in really good stead. So again, sending out those pitches to your editors. Something that I've done in the past is if I'm covering a meeting remotely and I'm interested in a result that will be presented as a poster, I've asked researchers to share their poster. I keep it in confidence. I tell them, I'd just like to understand a little more what you'll be presenting. Are you willing to share a poster? So that's an ask you can do. And something else, of course, covering the fall meeting remotely is you can tune into the web streamed press conferences. And these conferences are great for getting a lot of background. You'll get the names of scientists that are at the forefront of their field, and really, really useful just for note taking and for working on potential feature story ideas in the future. All right, so at the meeting, of course, the craziness begins, but it's good. So when I go in with my plan, I do try to stick with it mostly, and I print out physical hard copies of the sessions that I want to go to. So I have these pieces of paper, I carry them with me, and I can scribble on them. If I go to a session and it's not really worth it, I'll make myself a little note. I'll say, no, not this time. If there's one that's great, I'll put a star by it. So something to indicate to me which sessions I've gone to. And as I mentioned in the previous slide, press conferences, great for background. So I certainly check out what those are. And the image that I'm showing here, this is the newspaper that in previous years has been published every single day of the meeting. I know this year there's not going to be a newspaper. It's actually going to be online. So all the same content, but just online. So I suggest taking a look at that content. It's a quick recap of the day. maybe if you have a hole in your schedule, if you have 2 hours and there wasn't anything that caught your eye, take a look online and just see if there's something that day that you could check out. So one note about if you're sitting in a session and you realize that the content being presented just not newsworthy, it's just not a good fit for the publications that you write for, my advice is that you leave quietly. Don't feel bad. Don't feel like you need to sit through the whole thing. I know that's probably a little hard to do. Some of us feel self-conscious getting up and leaving, but it's important, because while there's a lot of information at the meeting, it is only 5 days and you want to make sure you're really using your time well. So my advice is sitting near the back or sitting near the sides of the room. So if you do realize something is not newsworthy, you can get up and leave. So with a lot of the writing that we all do, we often need an outside expert to comment on a story, somebody who's not involved in the research, but is generally familiar with that field of research. So something that I found at the fall meeting, because there are so many scientists there, basically everybody's there who could be a good outside expert. So people I often turn to is I ask the session chairs, so the people who are running the session. I reach out to other presenters in the same session. So those are people that I can go to for some quick quotes and some quick commentary. So at the fall meeting, in addition to all of the talks, there are thousands of posters as well. And when it comes down to covering posters and talks, my advice is to know how you learn best. So some of us, we go to talks, that's how we absorb information. Other people like to read slowly, look at the poster, and maybe chat with a researcher who's standing next to the poster. So these are two very different ways to go about it. And something that I'll note about the posters is that there are certain times where the scientists will be at their posters. So of course, that's a great time to get a direct quote, to ask some questions. But some people actually like to go through the poster hall when it's a bit quieter. You can kind of cruise through really quickly. It's easy just to walk by and see what catches your eye. So I'd say try both of those techniques and see what works best for you. And as I mentioned earlier, when you have business cards, don't feel shy about leaving a business card by a poster. If there's a poster that you like and the researcher isn't there, you can simply tack up a business card and say, hey, I'm a journalist. Here's my phone number, here's my email address. Please reach out to me. I'd love to chat with you about your work. And you can grab some thumbtacks when you go into that poster hall to tack up your business card. So that's a really good technique. And then finally, one more note is check out the exhibitors. So there are a lot of exhibitors at the fall meeting, some of them maybe who make scientific instruments. You probably wouldn't immediately think of those as being sources for story ideas, but I remember that I went to my very first fall meeting and went through the exhibit hall, and I found a company that was making a small little device that was flying through volcanic plumes and taking sampling of the gases. I thought that was fascinating. Chatted with them, got some more information, and ended up selling a story to Wired magazine. So just take a look. Story ideas are everywhere. I would say cruise through the exhibitors hall as well and see what you can find there. All right, so at the meeting, be open to ditching your plan. Maybe it's not working. Be open to poking your head into different doors, finding different sessions that maybe you hadn't thought about before. One example is this story here that I show on the screen. It was the end of the day on, probably was a Wednesday or Thursday of last year, and didn't have anything on my plan, didn't have anything to do, and didn't feel like walking too far from the press room. So I looked around to see what was nearby and popped into a session about subsidence, so about ground sinking. And I learned that there was a study related to the metro system in Mexico City. And I ended up selling the story to Science magazine. So just a case of popping into a random session and finding something neat. So treat the press room as home base. That's something I recommend. You can leave your stuff there, talk with people, make yourself comfortable. That's kind of where I come back to during the day. So I go out with my plan, go to my sessions, come back to the press room, have snacks, have coffee, chat with people. If I'm meeting with scientists for an interview, I ask that they meet me at the press room. And that makes it easy for me because I do enough walking during the day that I don't feel bad about asking them to meet me there. So that's a technique that I recommend. So when I am heading out of the press room to go to sessions, I certainly carry the basics with me. I carry a printout of the sessions I'm going to. I carry my notepad, my pens, my recorder, my cell phone. I don't always carry my laptop with me. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. So at the meeting, of course, you can spend a lot of time pitching stories, writing stories, or you can do what's called collecting string. So that's the idea that you can collect ideas. You can talk with journalists, take a lot of notes, and basically collect information that hopefully in the future will become stories. And also network with other members of the media. That's a really important thing. There are so many amazing people there that you will meet a lot of the people that perhaps you've wanted to meet, or people whose work you've admired. So take advantage of those connections. All right, so after the meeting, when you get home, of course, pitching and writing stories. If something is, a short snippet of a story, it's probably pretty timely and needs to be published pretty soon. I tend to aim to file news stories within 2 weeks of the meeting. That's kind of my deadline. And as I said in the previous slide, collecting ideas, collecting the string for longer feature stories is something else that I do. Take a lot of notes, file those away. I follow up with networking. So if I've chatted with new editors or colleagues, I ask, if they're local to me, perhaps we could meet up. Maybe we'll cross paths again at a future conference. And then finally, I make a list of researchers who are doing really neat, interesting work that maybe isn't quite ready for publication. It might be a little preliminary, but something that I'm very intrigued about. So I'll write myself a note, a physical note, an email note, whatever I need. So maybe in a month or two, I then follow up with those researchers again. All right, so in terms of big takeaways, points that I wish I'd known when I attended my first fall meeting as a journalist. It's an enormous event. Prioritize what you want to attend. You cannot attend everything, and there are things you will miss, and that's okay. Just make a list, and that's where the advanced preparation does come in. Secondly, leave time during the day, not only for walking between sessions, but also just de-stressing. I advise getting out of the building at some point during the day. Look for some fresh air, some sunlight, some snow, whatever the conditions are. And that's really nice. To remind yourself that, there is another world beyond the meeting. It's a good way for me to recharge. And then thirdly, talk with people in the press room. It's very easy to hide behind your laptop and, work on your pitches or check your email. And obviously many people are doing that. There are a lot of people on deadline, but still say hi to people. We are a friendly crowd, and it's really nice to make those connections with other people. And then lastly, don't overcommit yourself with deadlines during the meeting. In other words, if you send out 5 pitches on Monday and 4 of them are accepted and the editors say they want stories by Thursday, you're probably going to be camped out in the press room the whole time. And while it is great to publish stories during the meeting, you're also going to be missing a lot of really cool science that's being presented. So I say, watch out in terms of the number of stories you agree to do during the meeting, because there is amazing content being presented, and collecting ideas for the future is really valuable as well. And finally, the meeting's just a lot of fun, so enjoy it. You don't want to miss it. So that's all.
Great, thank you so much, Kathy. Awesome. So now I'm just gonna, give you all just a little bit more information and actually show you how to navigate the program a little bit. So all the information you will need as a member of the press attending the meeting is all online in the Fall Meeting Media Center. So I'm actually going to go to this website now and kind of show you how to navigate it, and then show you how to search the program as well. So here you'll find everything about registration, housing, field trips, looking for experts, and all of our media advisories and press releases about the meeting, as well as slides from press conferences and recordings of press conferences, and information about how to stream press conferences live. So I'm just going to exit out of my little presentation here, and I will show you how to get there. So If you want to start really simple, just Google AGU Fall Meeting. All right, that comes up. Click on it. All right, and now you are at the Fall Meeting website. So this is kind of your landing page for the meeting. If you scroll down a little bit, you will see here on the right side, you'll say there's a section called Quick Links, and you'll see right here there's one for media. So if you click on that, it'll take a second to pop up. All right, so now you are in the Fall Meeting Media Center. So this is all the information you'll need about registration. You can scroll down, housing, the scientific program, information about the press room, our press conferences. We have a couple workshops and field trips going on before the meeting, so all that information is here as well. Late in a couple of weeks, we are a little bit closer to the meeting, we are going to launch some more features in this media center, which is we are going to allow PIOs to upload names of experts at the meeting. So if you do need someone for an outside comment and you can't find someone, there will be experts listed there. Also, all the tool where we will post all these slides from press conferences and all of our press releases as in our tip sheets as well. But so that's not available quite yet, but it'll be coming very, very soon. Yes, and PIOs can also upload press releases as well to the virtual press room was what we call it. And so if you go here, if you see this right-hand menu, it says here press registration, housings or quick links, who's coming. So if you click on that, you can see who, what press members of the press are already coming to the meeting. And then the fourth one is the scientific program. So I will just show you that really quick. So if you click on there, and now we are in the actual online program. So it's kind of, it's like I said, it's more than 26,000 abstracts. It's tough to get through, but there are a couple ways you can do it. You can go up here to the right and click on the search button, and that will take you to the search page. You could search by a keyword, you could search by a presenter's name, their institution, anything like that. Or you can go back to the main page. If you just kind of want to browse through the program, you will go back to that home page right here. And then go on this left-hand side menu, and there's different options here. So you can browse by day. So you can click on this. This will allow you to see, exactly what's happening every day. So this starts off all the way to Friday before the meeting. You can just go by it by date and time. Or if you're looking, if you cover specific beats, or if you're looking for story ideas in a specific topic area, you go over here and go click on this button that says sections, tutorial talks, and town halls. And now this shows you all of those more than 20 scientific disciplines that the meeting is organized around. So if I want to look for something in ocean sciences, I'll just go right up here and click on ocean sciences. And now it's every presentation that's related to ocean sciences organized chronologically. So starting on Monday and going all the way through the meeting. So you can see the first presentations that pop up are the ones that are Monday at 8 a.m. And you can just kind of scroll through here. And it also shows you where everything is located, although that information is there as well. So if I click on an individual session, this will give me a little overview of the session, when it is, where it is, who the conveners are, and who the chairs are, and then the actual presentations in that session if you scroll down. So it'll give you an overview of all those and who the authors are, and you can even click on one of those as well and read the actual abstract. So if you wanted to go through and read that, all the information is right there. So it's a kind of tough to slog through because there are so many abstracts, but everything is here online if you need it. And we do have an Excel spreadsheet of all the presentations. If you would like that, just email us at news@agu.org and we can help you out. Yeah, so this one that I have pulled up right here is OS11A-01. So OS, Ocean Sciences, 1 means it's Monday. The next one means it's the first session on Monday. And then A means it's the first one of that grouping. And then the -01 is the actual abstract indicator. So that means the first one in that session, first presentation in that session. Yeah, so the app will be made available in a couple weeks, available for download on Apple App Store and Google Play. And the press office, we will send out daily emails to you all as well at the meeting to kind of just summarizing what we think are the newsworthy presentations for that day and the press conferences as well. So here's just a little bit more information. So if you registered before November 1st, your badge will be mailed to you. But if you're not, that's okay. You can pick it up at the press registration desk, which, like I said, is the Marriott Marquis, level M3. And even if you were mailed your badge and you forget it or you lose it, anything like that, you can still just go to press registration and they will print you out a new one. So not a problem at all. It's all right there. We also, in addition, like I said, on the Media Center, you can see information about some of the field trips and workshops that we're doing for press this year. But there's also a couple other kind of networking and fun social events that we're having. So I want to make you guys aware of that. The first is the Journalism Awards reception. So this is a reception to honor the winners of AGU's Journalism Awards. And this will be Tuesday afternoon at 5 o'clock in the press room with some light refreshments. The next event is our local science writing association here in DC is called the DC Science Writers Association. Fancy that. So they are having their annual holiday party the week of the meeting, and that is going to be Wednesday evening. And it's a really big, fun blowout party. It's always a lot of fun. There's plenty of food and drinks available there. That's Wednesday, December 12th at a bar called Abigail at 7 p.m. And it will feature a performance by a band led by NIH Director Francis Collins. And other scientists at NIH, and they are called the Affordable Rock and Roll Act. And this will be the third year they have played for the DC Science Writers, and they are such a great time. They're wonderful musicians, and it's really fun. So I encourage all of you to attend. And so in the next meeting advisory that we'll be sending out next week, there'll be information about how to buy a ticket for that party. And then I just wanted to point you guys to a couple other resources that are available online. So the Open Notebook actually has a lot of good stories about covering meetings, covering, what to do when scientists are kind of reluctant to talk to you, how to get the most out of scientific meetings. So I just really recommend going to the Open Notebook and reading some of these stories if you want a little bit more, some more tips about covering the meeting. And then who's going to be on site with you to help out? So all the AGU Public Information team will be there. Excuse me. That's myself, Nancy, Liza, and Larry O'Hanlon, who does AGU social media. And we'll be based in the press room, which is that room Chinatown on the Marriott Marquis level M3. But we'll be there. We'll be in the press conference room. We'll be all around. So feel free to come find us. We'll be there to answer any questions you might have. And at any point before or during the meeting, you can email us at news@agu.org for any questions or requests you might have, and we'll be happy to help. And so with that, I think we'll open it up for questions. Do we have any questions on the line?
We have a question.
Okay.
Tell them that if you have a question, you can type it in.
Okay, so if you have a question, type it into that question box or that chat box on the right-hand side of your screen, and we will read it out and answer it for you.
The first question is, will the full posters be available remotely?
Oh, yeah. So the first question is, will the full posters be available remotely?
Yes.
Yes.
So okay, that's a good question. So presenters can upload their poster as an e-poster, and they can do that. Anyone who's presenting a poster can do that. It's not mandatory, however. So it's up to them to do that. A lot of people do. The other thing is they have new this year. AGU has a new preprint server called eSoar, and poster presenters are also encouraged to upload their posters to eSoar. So hopefully a lot of them will do it, but it's not mandatory. So if you are covering it remotely, it probably, if you don't see it in the e-poster or on eSoar, good to reach out to the presenter themselves, and perhaps they can share it with you.
Right.
Next question. If I'm a PIO, how can I be useful to reporters?
Kathy, do you want to take that one? How can a PIO be helpful to reporters?
Sure. So I welcome any story tips. So preparing a tip sheet, maybe that lists the researchers from your institution and what talks they'll be giving is great. I would say with that, if you give me quick bullet points about the takeaway points of their research, so I can skim over it, that's really helpful. Good images are great, so I can share those with my editors who often want good video or good still images as well. So basically just publicizing what people are doing at your institution. Come up and say hi in the press room, that's another thing. Introduce yourself. I love to join email lists, at institutions so I can learn about what's going on.
Okay, we have two questions that are about recording. First, are photos allowed? For example, photographing slides here and there if we can't write fast enough to keep up.
Good question. So actually, we are in the process of, so to traditionally, photography, audio, and video recording were not allowed in any of the scientific scientific sessions or the poster hall. But we are currently looking at the photography policy, and I think that there will be some revisions to that this year. I don't want to say anything yet because it's not a full policy, but if you subscribe to our media advisories, we'll let you know as soon as anything gets changed. But that's in terms of the photography. Pretty sure though that the audio and video recording policy will likely remain the same, where we don't allow any audio or video recording in the scientific sessions or the poster hall. If you are kind of a video person, you can do it in all the public areas. The press conferences are totally fine. Public areas in the hallways, a lot of people bring, folks out in the hallways to interview them. That's definitely an option. If there is something that you have a specific question about, like a session and recording, please reach out to us, and maybe we can try to work with you to see if there's anything we can help you with. But in general, that's the policy.
Yeah,
if that answers the question.
Yeah. Is there a mobile app this year?
Yes. Yeah. Go ahead.
It syncs, right, with the desktop app. So if you log into that and save sessions, you can sync it to the mobile app.
Yeah. The mobile app, however, is not available just yet. So what you will do is you'll go into the App Store. I have it on my phone. It's called AGU Events. And so if you download that app, I think it's the same one as from last year. So if you have the one from last year, you basically will use the same app and you just upload the new meeting. But we'll send, again, if you subscribe to our media advisories, everything will be in there as soon as it's launched. We will let you know. But yes, there will be a mobile app.
Yes. If you are registered right now for the meeting, then you already will be getting our media advisories. If you're not registered, go ahead and register so we can get you on our list. And that way you'll get all of our media advisories with all this information as soon as it goes out. Any more questions?
For Kathy, does she feel that field trips are useful for reporters?
So I actually have not gotten a chance to go on a field trip yet. So I think I'm going to pass off that question to somebody else. But I will say, theoretically, yes, I love the idea of getting out in the field. I love the idea of meeting local researchers. And I also like getting to know what the local area offers, if I'm not familiar with it. So yes, I would just say I have not yet had the opportunity, but I would love to.
I would say, this is Nancy. We haven't done field trips in a while, and then we did one last year or two last year in New Orleans. Both centered around flooding and water and things like that. We did one and LSU did one. And just the feedback I received from reporters was that it was very helpful. And I think a few people even did, wrote stories based on it. So I guess just the feedback that we received, because we want to know if they are obviously helpful to people and that they're worth doing. We've gotten good feedback that they were helpful to folks, and they did wind up having stories. But if you do, I guess it's a good thing to say, if you do go on, at the end of the meeting, we'll send out a survey. We want to know everything that we can do to do better, or we're missing something, or you need something, or it wasn't what you expected, or, if the field trips could be better, or the press conference could be better, we want to know. And if there's anything missing even now that you might find helpful, please let us know, because we want to, do everything to help you guys cover the meeting, whether you're a reporter or a PIO, as easily as possible. So please don't hesitate to reach out and let us know.
Okay. Do we have any more?
Should PIOs leave printed materials?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to have plenty of table space in the press room to leave printed materials. So yes.
And we recommend bringing, maybe 50 copies of something.
Yeah.
But of course, you can also upload it to the virtual press room, like we said.
Yeah.
And I think what Kathy said too, what she said about, just talking to reporters too, goes a long way, rather than, along with leaving the printed materials.
Yeah.
Are the weekend before workshops, the Saturday and Sunday, open to reporters?
I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to. So we have a workshop on Sunday specifically for reporters. It's about near-Earth objects, and that is open to reporters. As for the workshops, I think this is the first year that they're offering scientific workshops, and I believe that if there's one specifically, why don't you email us and we can ask about it. If they're open to reporters, they may actually have a fee associated with them too. This is a new format. If you have one that you're specifically interested in covering, please email us and we'll look into it for you.
Yep.
All right, I think that's everything.
Okay, great. So if no one has any more questions, we'll just end it there. Of course, you can feel free to email us at news@agu.org for anything else you might need, and we will be uploading the recording of this webinar and the slides to the web, and we'll share that with you as well. So if you want to look back at it at any time, and we look forward to seeing you all next month in DC. All right, thank you very much, and thank you, Kathy, so much for joining us and sharing your expertise.
Thank you. It was great.
Wonderful. All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you soon.